Okay, so my topic today is actually inspired by my Bible study last night. We had a really good discussion about hearing God's voice.
Ooh.
And I just was like, I kind of want to just repeat what I said at Bible study because I felt like it was just like a good moment. But I was thinking about how a lot of people say I pray, but I don't know how to hear God's voice. I think a lot of people have this idea that you say something to God. You're like, hey, God, I'm struggling with this problem.
Ring, ring.
What do I do? A lot of people, especially, it's big life choices. Should I take this new job? Should I date or marry this person? Should I move? These big life things. And then, or even just small things too. And then you're like, I talk, but I don't know what God's saying. And it's and then you hear something, you're like, well, was that just my own voice? Was that just am I just in my head? It's hard to discern, is that the voice of God? And these are my sort of thoughts on that issue. So number one, I think, as annoying as it is, I think it's easiest to discern if that was God's voice in retrospect, and you start to recognize it more as you become more familiar. But the biggest way to discern if God was speaking to you is the fruit of what happened from that situation. So when God is guiding and the Holy Spirit is guiding a situation, there will be good fruit from the situation that comes from it. And sometimes you don't see that, and you have to kind of just take a trustful. And I think a lot of times, at least for me, I will go, my favorite place to pray is adoration at church because it's so quiet and it's so peaceful. And I think a lot of times if you want to hear God's voice, you have to be in an environment of peace and quiet, which is really hard in our modern world to attain that. But I think it's really important because God's voice is best heard in silence and peace. But a lot of times the first time you ask, especially when it's a big life decision, you're maybe not going to hear a really clear answer. So sometimes you have to go back several times, even 10 times, 20 times over, whatever, and just keep showing up. You see that a lot in the Bible, people asking God over and over and kind of patiently waiting for an answer. But yeah, don't be afraid to keep asking, and God will reveal it to you. It might not be this loud voice booming out of the clouds. I feel like most people never hear that. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't love you or that he's not listening. He does love you. He is listening. And a lot of times the answer will come in a very subtle, ordinary way, something someone says to you, or just something that happens, maybe an email or an opportunity you get, or just something you hear on the radio or on a show. You'll hear something that will kind of make it click. And a lot of times that will be God speaking to you. I remember one specific example for me. I was having a lot of anxiety about my wedding.
Oh.
I think I was already engaged at that point, but I was just questioning a lot.
You were trying to get married in 2020.
Yeah, right. And I was just feeling a lot of anxiety. I remember I would go to church and just sit and cry because I was really overwhelmed by the wedding. And I also was just questioning, this is such a big life decision. Am I ready for this? I don't know. I feel so much anxiety. But then I would go into the church and I would pray and I would feel a lot of peace about it. And one day I went into church and I sat down and I was really overwhelmed about the wedding. And in the adoration chapel, there was a single bouquet of flowers that was my exact wedding colors, purple, green, and white. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just took that as a little sign from God. I'm here with you. Everything's going to be okay. Trust in me. And I feel like the more I was open to God's voice, the easier it has been to hear it over the years. So yeah. I just want to wrap it up with that. God is speaking to you. He wants to talk to you. He wants to reach you. It's just a matter of giving him a chance and making some space for silence so that he can talk to you, and realizing that you have to just be listening for it. You will hear an answer. You will know what to do. He will guide you. And the fruit of that will be good. And that's how you'll know that it was him. So that's my thoughts on God speaking to you.